All right, so if we want to go ahead and get started, so we're super excited to have Brenda Wise here with us today, teaching about real estate safety and self-defense. Please, if everybody has questions, feel free to ask them. I'll also be managing the chat today, so letting Brenda know if there's any questions. And I know there was a question about whether this was recorded, and yes, it will be. And yeah, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you, Brenda.
All right, great. Thank you so much, Melissa. I appreciate you at that. So thanks everybody for those of you that are here and will be showing up shortly. I appreciate that. How many of you all have a concern with realtor safety, and what specifically are some of your concerns? I always like to find out before I get started what are some concerns so I can address them. So don't be shy, please. Ask away.
This is Deborah Grade.
One
thing I would like to know is the rate of cases and so forth throughout our metropolitan area or throughout the nation, because I understand that quite a few realtors have fallen victim to crimes, and they oftentimes go unreported. So I'd like to know just how much of a threat this is to us.
Okay, great, Deborah. Thank you for that question. I will give a lot of stats as I go through that are national stats, and I'll also talk about what's happened in the last, I'd say 6 weeks, 7 weeks, as far as victims, agents who have been victimized in the last, probably since mid-October. And yeah, so I'll try to cover all of that stuff, just so you kind of know who I am. I am not a police officer. I am an entrepreneur of 40 years. I have been doing and sharing this message for 40 years all over America. I am an actual crime prevention specialist and expert. I am passionate about sharing life-saving information with you as citizens, as professionals, as realtors, because I'm in that same boat. I'm a professional, I'm an entrepreneur. I was actually a developer. So I built and sold homes with agents. I've been working specifically with the real estate profession for probably about 30 years now, just really targeting real estate. My sister's been an agent with Howard Hanna for 26 years. So I'm really, really familiar with the real estate industry. I love the real estate industry. I think it's a great industry, but there are risks. And, you know, unfortunately, what are the risks to you as an agent? Couple. Number one, you work alone. Number two, you meet strangers. Number three, it's typically in vacant places, either an open house, you're just, you know, showing people properties, even if they're lived in, people are usually not there when you're showing them. So those are opportunities, and criminals are always looking for opportunities. In the last, since mid-October, we've had 5 real estate agents killed. And Deborah, you're right. A lot of the stories don't get out there. There are some that make national news, but most of them do not. We had, and this is just to give you perspective. Understand, I love the real estate industry. It's great. I have probably thousands of friends throughout the country that are real estate agents. The thing is, you've got to take this serious. And number one concern for you is safety. Now, what I think is a shame is that there are 4 of you that I see online and maybe 1 or 2 of you in the audience. That's sad to me, because what that means is those people that aren't here have no resources. They have no strategies to use when they're placed in a life-threatening situation. I have been going around to real estate companies, all of them, Keller Williams, I mean, you name it. And I typically speak at sales meetings, so I've got a room full. But let's talk about how these agents died and what they could have done differently. Probably one of the first ones I'll start with is Soren, right here in Portsmouth, Virginia. I knew Soren. He worked for Long and Foster, a great guy. He was selling a house sight unseen. Gentleman was coming from Alabama, 84 years old. And when he got here, he was probably a little disillusioned and disappointed. Probably wasn't getting the same thing as he had in Alabama. Who knows specifically? But there were a few things that needed to be fixed. Water, leaky faucets, a couple of other things. So he called Soren. And Soren went over there on a Friday afternoon at 5 o'clock. And, you know, Soren's a great guy. He was really sweet, just really did a good job at showing all of the things this guy wanted. This is the house he picked. So Soren went to meet with him, and probably within 15 minutes of Soren being there, he shot and killed Soren and then turned the gun on himself after the police arrived. So there was obviously some mental illness there, and that's a factor that you can't see, but it's out there and it's real, and we're all being affected by it every day, doesn't matter what your profession is. There was an agent in Florida, and this was a male agent. Soren was a male agent. Because see, people have this misconception that it only happens to women. It happens to men and women. But that's another whole story. But there was an agent in Florida, South Florida, went to get some paperwork signed, was leaving the property, and he was abducted. He was forced to drive to an ATM machine, and then he was shot and killed. And it was a 15-year-old boy that committed this crime. There was a male agent that went to see a tenant in Tennessee. He was with his wife, and in talking to the tenant shot and killed both of them, leaving a 20-year-old daughter behind. There was an agent, 3 agents, and a home inspector. And they were going to a house in California to evaluate it because the parent had just died. And so the siblings wanted to sell it. Some did. The one that lived there with the father did not. And so the 3 agents went to look at it along with the home inspector, and the sibling that lived in the house shot all of them. He injured the 3 agents, but he killed the home inspector. So, you know, that's the reality of life and business today. Crime is everywhere. In fact, I usually ask people, raise your hand if you believe we have a crime problem in our communities. And if you're not raising your hand right now, you're the criminals. I say that jokingly, but I think everybody, you watch the news. I mean, every single day, crimes are happening. The biggest problem is people don't have strategies. They don't know what to do when they're in a crime situation because they've never been taught. Because most people, when you go, hey, you want to listen to a crime prevention or a personal safety seminar, and people are like, you know, I have an appointment. I'm so sorry, I have to go. This is your life we're talking about. There was an agent. Now, this happened about a year and a half, 2 years ago, and I'm sure you heard his story. He was doing an open house. He was in Anne Arundel County, and there was 2 guys that came and they wanted his car. Well, unfortunately, being a macho guy, he fought and he lost his life, and they took the car. So you've got to be smart, and fighting is always your last alternative. And we'll talk about that as one possibility, but is always your last. So again, crimes happen. They happen everywhere. They happen. In fact, I'll ask you this. Where do crimes occur? Anywhere, everywhere. Who do crimes happen to? Anybody, everybody. And what time of day do crimes occur? All. So this is the reality of our lives. Whether you like it or not, that's the reality. So my question is, if crime happens anywhere at any time to anybody, what have you all done? Aside from being here right now to learn safety protocols and information that can save your life and the people that you love that aren't sitting here listening to me right now. Because this is information that can save your life. And this is information that if you care enough, you'll go home and share it with the people that you love to help save their lives. There's not a city in this country, big city, if you will, Hampton Roads, I'm here at the beach, where you live, DC, Northern Virginia, it doesn't matter. Crimes are happening. So there was a girl up in Minneapolis, and she was asked to come to show a house. And again, there are specific safety protocols that you have to follow. There's a lot of agents, seasoned and new agents, that either don't know or they get lax and they don't follow them. So one of the things that I have is a safety protocol intake form. You should always have your prospect come to the office. If they don't want to, pass them off, because that's going to give you a red flag right there that you need to be careful. So this girl, obviously, she didn't probably know or follow any safety protocols, and they shot and killed her. Well, it happened to be that they were killing her to get back at her boyfriend. So, but she was a real estate agent. It was a perfect opportunity for them to lure her to a specific spot. So you have to follow safety protocols. Always meet at your office. Get their license, get the license plate on their car, take a picture of their car. Because see, when people are seen by others, they're less likely, because they know they've been identified, to commit the crime. But when you're meeting a stranger and you're in a house and nobody knows who that person is and nobody knows that you're there or where you are, that's a setup for a very disastrous situation. So you always want to make sure that somebody knows exactly where you are. Having a safety buddy, whether it's a real estate agent, whether it's a spouse, whether it's a best friend, always letting them know where you are, when you're going to be leaving, when you should be returning, who you're meeting. Again, that information should be left at the front desk, so that, again, they know who the person is, they have their license, they know the license plate, the make of the car. All of these things are just going to ensure your safety. And if you get too lazy and don't do it, that's on you, because those are safety protocols that you need to do. I had a really good friend that's been in real estate here forever, probably 30 years. Her and her husband both are agents. They're top agents. And about 15 years ago, she was doing an open house. And a guy came in. He'd just been released from jail. And he said, well, I'm waiting for my friend down the street. And Paula's like, oh, is that the fireman so-and-so? And he's like, yeah. She's like, well, doesn't he work like 3 days on and 2 days off? Well, that should have been her first red flag. And she should have said, you know what, I need to make a phone call. Will you please excuse me? And gone out and called for help. But anyway, the guy kept her for 3 hours in the house, told her he was going to rape her, he was going to kill her. And I mean, she kept doing all these things that were just the wrong thing to do. And she's been in my program. She just wasn't paying attention. And she's just a really good-hearted person. So, the agent from across the street, also holding an open house, had seen the guy walking up and down the street. She locked all her doors. He didn't go in. And so she came over after 3 hours and said, are you okay? And Paula's like, yes. Well, she could tell she wasn't okay. And so she went back and called the police. Well, of course, the guy said, you know what, this is your lucky day, because I was going to kill you. He took her keys, took her jewelry, and he left. 2 weeks later, he killed a woman in that neighborhood and, of course, was apprehended. So, those things happen. You just have to pay attention to the red flags, and don't ever think that what your intuition or your gut's telling me is not right, or telling you is not right, because it is. And it can save your life. But a lot of times people go, oh, well, I don't want to be silly, or I don't want to be an alarmist. When it comes to your safety, you better. You absolutely better. I was just reading, somebody had sent me something about these apps. Well, everybody has an app on your phone where you can hit it and it will call 5 of your closest contacts that you put in there to call in case of an emergency. And you don't have to pay for that. That's just on your iPhone or your Android. And you can go to any one of your service providers and they'll show you how to use it. I went to mine and he showed me how. I was like, oh, okay, well, that's easy. But these other things, that apps that people are trying to promote, you've got GPS on your car. People can track you on your car. They actually have what's called an AirBud, which is by Apple. It's AirTag is what it's called. Now, it was originally designed for people to tag their cars, so if they got stolen, they could find them. Women put them in really expensive pocketbooks so they could find it if somebody steals it. But unfortunately, what I found out the other day is that perpetrators, people are putting them in your pocket, your briefcase, your gym bag, and they can track you. Now that scares the out of me. So you have to be really careful. They found them on the inside of gas tanks because they put it on girls' cars to follow them. But again, you can have that tracker and just let people know that it's on you. And as an agent, you have it for your safety, and they can track you in real time, whether you put it on your person or, on your car, whatever you want to do. But it's great to be able to find you if you're lost, because, those other app things, the biggest thing is you want to be able to stop your attacker right there when you're in the incident, not later on, because you might not have a later on, but we'll talk about that in a moment. So I'm just throwing out some things to be mindful of and to be aware of. A lot of times people say, well, what do the criminals look like? And I will tell you, they look as ordinary as you and I. You can't really define who a criminal looks like. However, when you think about victims of crimes, one of the questions I always ask in my live presentation, and I get people to stand up and point to the next person that they think best represents a victim of a crime. And typically, what do people do? Well, they'll point to anybody around them, and I'll say, you know, I ask that question in every class, and 98% of the time people get it wrong, because where should we be pointing to? If you would answer that, please.
Probably ourselves.
Should be pointing to yourself. But yet, what I know to be true about citizens in this country is your belief is, it's not going to happen to me. I don't go to bad places. I don't go out at night. They'll give me all of these excuses. Again, crime happens anywhere at any time to anybody. You could be going to the grocery store. I mean, doesn't matter anymore. You could be pumping gas. It doesn't matter. Crimes happen. The important thing is having the strategies and know what to do in any given situation. So criminals look for 3 things. And these are the kind of things that when you know it, you'll be much safer as a result of it. They're always looking for a victim who is quick, easy, and low risk. Low risk of them getting caught. So what I teach people to do is to be very risky in their lives. Risky means that when the criminal looks at me, they're going to be like, yeah, no, she's too risky. I'm going to get caught. I'm going to pass her by and go somewhere else, because I know there's going to be 1,001 people out there, hundreds of thousands of people that don't know this information and don't know what risky looks like. And they'll be that perfect next victim. So you have to be very mindful of that. What does risky look like? Obviously, confidence, being aware of what's going on. We call it situational awareness, being aware of what's going on around you at all times. Now, that doesn't mean you're walking through a parking lot like this. You're just being very present, and you're being very aware of your surroundings and your space. Because what people typically will tell me is, oh, Brenda, they came out of nowhere. Well, no, they didn't come out of nowhere. You just weren't paying attention. And I will tell you, this is your biggest downfall. Your cell phone is what takes your attention away from the danger that's around you. And so I tell people all the time, do not use this coming and going. Do not use this going into the grocery store, or texting somebody coming out of work or whatever. Use it in your home, in your car, in your office. But this will make you so vulnerable that you will be the perfect target for a criminal. So just be mindful of that. Situational awareness, being aware of what's going on around you. The criminals, they have the skill, they have the desire. We can't do anything about that. However, the third thing to the 3-legged stool is opportunity. And if we give them the opportunity, they're going to take it. That's the only thing that you and I as citizens have control over, is whether or not we give them the opportunity. Again, when you look incredibly risky to the criminals in what you're doing and how you're handling yourself, they've got so many options, it won't be you. So where do you think the number one place is that crime happens to you and I and our families? Number one place. Where do you think? Would anybody like to guess or take themselves off mute and say? This is participatory, by the way. I don't want to do all the talking.
Where's the number one place that crime happens to you?
I would say places that you like regularly go to, like that you're familiar with.
It's actually your home. A lot of people will say parking garages, you know, parking on the street, walking in the park, whatever. Actually, number one place that crime happens to you and I is in our homes. About every 6 seconds, a home is broken into. I've been a victim of a home burglary when I lived at home with my parents. Some of you have had the experience. What do you need to do to decrease the odds of you becoming a victim? Because that's what it's all about. So the information that I'm going to share with you, especially in this home section, is great for you to take down, take notes, because you're in the business of selling homes and helping people buy homes. And this kind of value that you can give to them, as far as, you know, this is what you need to do to make your home more secure, will set you apart from your competition. And again, add value, and the persons that you are serving will really respect and be very grateful to you for that. So you can take notes or not, but I would highly recommend it if you're the kind of agent that really goes over and above and really likes to be of service to your buyers and sellers. Because I have a whole tip sheet, 3 sheets of nothing but information for a seller. So when they're putting their home on the market, you should be able to give them this piece of paper and say, this is just information that I think would be good for you to go through your home to look at, make note of, so that you will be less of a victim of a crime when you have your home on the market. And here's one of the tips that I tell people. Even though you as the agent are going to probably show the house, or you're going to be notified when it is being shown, oftentimes people never go through their house after it's been shown and check every window and door to make sure they are secure. And somebody coming through your home could be there for different reasons or want to come back later and visit you. And they can easily leave a door unlocked or a window unlocked, and they have access into your home. Now, that's not something people think of to do, but it's absolutely imperative to do. So I had an agent just the other day. I was doing a program for Women's Council of Realtors, and she was really phobic about keeping her doors locked and her windows locked and everything. And she had an a repair person come to her home and fix the kitchen, something in the kitchen. So a couple of weeks later, her husband's locked out of the house. So he's walking around trying all the doors and windows to see if he can get in. So yes, he found the kitchen window was unlocked, because what had happened is when the workman was there, he opened the window for ventilation, but when he shut it, he didn't lock it. So again, sometimes it's by accident and sometimes it's on purpose. But you need to, whenever you have a repair person come to your home, make sure all the doors and windows have been securely locked after they leave. So that's just one of many, many, many tips that I offer for those of you that are interested in those tips. You can get those from me. So again, in the home, keeping your doors locked, your windows locked, having noise deterrence. Every day when I leave my house, I leave a radio or TV on, because the illusion that I'm creating for a criminal is what? Somebody's there. Even though there's not, for 40 years, every time I leave my house, I leave a radio or a TV on. It's worked for me. I've never been a victim of a home burglary since I have been doing these programs around the country and teaching people. So that's one great thing you can do. Having a dog, great. I don't have a dog, never had a dog, but I can create the illusion that I do by simply getting a dog food dish like this big and putting it at the back door and putting a really good name on it. My preference is Killer, Satan Jaws, Ripper, whatever you want it to be, because what you're doing is you're playing mind games with the criminal. And when the criminal comes to your home and they don't see a dog outside, but they see this great big dog food dish and it's got a name on it, they're going to make an assumption that you've probably got a dog. And if they were casing and watching you and saw you did not leave with the dog, then chances are the dog's still inside. So again, the criminals don't want that risk. So they're going to go somewhere else and pass you by. It sounds simple, but it works, and it has worked for years, and I've never had anybody tell me it didn't work. So I know it's a very, very, very good strategy. Security systems, they're excellent. Typically, if you're walking or driving down the street, most people will say, well, I can identify if somebody's got a system because they'll probably have that little sign in the landscape that says, you know, guarded by whatever. I have so many people in my classes, and to date, I've spoken to about 113,000 people in the last 30 years. They'll always say they keep stealing that little landscape sign out of my yard that identifies I have a system. So for 40 years, we've been telling people having stickers on the doors and windows of your home simply imply that you've got a security system, and that if somebody breaks in, what typically happens is police will be called. If you're tied into a central dialing station, they'll send the police out if nobody answers the call. And so it's a great, great way to secure your homes. Even if you don't have a full-blown security system, the stickers work amazingly. This is what I've always had on my home, and it works beautifully. So that's a really great option, especially for people that live in apartments and, you know, can't have a system or can't afford one. The other thing you've got to remember is, and again, this for you specifically as agents, you're meeting strangers. They are prospective buyers. You're meeting repair people to fix properties. You're meeting inspectors. You know, some of these people are strangers. You never met them before. And if they're there for the reason they say they are, great. But if they're not, you've got to know what to do. And again, most time, just, oh yeah, not a big deal. I'm not going to worry about that person. Well, you need to. So just be aware that these are strangers too, and you could be placed in a compromising situation. I had a woman in my class. She was a nurse. She said, I had a plumber come to my home, no problem, and he left. She said about 3 or 4 nights later, she said, I heard something. I was in the basement. I was doing my laundry. She said, I heard a noise. And she said, I turned around and looked, and there he stood in my basement, very intoxicated. Well, that guy had done just that. When he came to fix her plumbing, he left the window open in the basement so he had access into it, and then came back a couple of weeks later. So it's real and it happens. Had another woman said, I had a package delivery person come to my house, had this big package, says, let me help you with it. It's kind of heavy. She said, oh, no, I've got a table right here beside my door. I'll set it there and my husband's going to get shortly. Guy said, oh, no problem. I'll do it for you. So he set the package down, but as he did, he shut the door with his foot and he attacked the woman right there in the entranceway of her home. And so when she was in my class after that incident, she said, Brenda, ask people if they have weapons in their home, where commonly are they kept? And there's typically 2 places. You're probably thinking, well, bedroom, because that's where most people resort to is I've got, you know, something in my bedroom. The other place is a kitchen. So 2 places strategically, most people think of weapons in their home. She said, I was by the front door. She said, I didn't have a prayer that day of getting to my kitchen, let alone getting to my bedroom on the opposite side of the house. So again, you have to think very strategically about if you or your family members were caught in that home, would they have the ability to stop the intruder? Because that's all you're looking for is how do I stop the intruder so I can get myself and my family out safely? So those are things to be very mindful of when you're in any given situation, whether your own home or you're showing homes or whatever the situation is, or meeting inspectors and or repair people. The other thing that a lot of people have a concern with is cars, whether it be carjacking or just breaking down in your own car. A lot of times, many of you probably have had that experience before. I've certainly have had it before, and people don't realize breakdowns can happen in brand new cars just as they can old clunker cars. I mean, my car was actually like a year or 2 old when it happened to me. So it's a brand new car. So the things that you want to do are, number 1, always stay in your car. You're much safer inside of your car than you are outside of your car. Number 2, move to the passenger side and sit and wait. Tell me why. Why would you do that? This can't be that hard. This is an easy question. Why would you sit in the passenger side and wait?
Because it makes it look like you're waiting for somebody else to get in the car with you. You're not alone.
So it creates the illusion that somebody has gone for help and they'll be back any moment. So what does that do? It increases the element of risk to the criminals. So they won't stop to bother you or your young teenager, but they'll just pass you by and go somewhere else. Because remember, they're looking for quick, easy, low risk targets, always. Had a real estate agent that told me, she said, I have 2 brothers. They work for themselves. They broke down. Somebody came along and helped them. They got on their way. And this is in Virginia Beach. She said about 3 months later, one of those 2 brothers was driving down the road and he saw a breakdown. So he's like, okay, my time to, stop and help somebody else as I was helped previously. And she said her brother stopped to help them, but what he didn't realize was it was a setup and they killed her brother. So, and this was on Interstate 264 going into Virginia Beach. people could see what was going on. So you just have to be aware that things like that happen. You never ever want to stop to help anybody, but certainly you can get help for other people. So let's say that you're out and about today. Maybe you've got family members that are out and about, and one of those loved ones calls you for help. Most people tell me it's going to probably take me 30 minutes to an hour to get to them, depending on time, depending on traffic, depending on where I am and where they are. So even though they've made the phone call to you, it's going to still take a window of time for you to get to them. So what we want to make sure is they stay safe until you or AAA or whatever gets to them. Even when I call AAA, because I do have AAA, my husband got it for me, you know, I'm still going to wait at least 20 to 45 minutes for AAA to get to me. So I've still got that time of vulnerability. So one of the things that we like to do is have, I hope I have it here. Oh, great. Okay, well, darn it. So I have a really big call police sign banner, and it's not sitting here on my desk, dang on it. So it's a big banner. It has pink, bright pink neon lettering, and it says call police. Now think about this. If your loved one's sitting there and they have a banner in the back window of their car with lettering like that big so people can see it very clearly, and it says call police, what that's going to do is, number one, if you don't have the access or that loved one doesn't have the access to use their phone, and here are the two situations. Either your phone is dead and maybe you don't have the charger, or if your car is dead, you certainly can't charge your phone. Or you're in a dead cell. Anybody been in a dead cell before? We all have. You can't make a call anyway because you're in that dead cell. So even though phones are great, there are situations where you have no access to your phone. That's one of the things I tell people is always keep an old spare phone, an old spare cell phone in your auto safety bag so that if you are in emergencies, you have that to use. However, in this situation, you want to make sure that you have that sign in the back window because, number one, it'll keep the criminals from stopping, because they're not going to pull up behind you to have what? The cops pull right up behind them, because probably 50,000 other motorists that have driven past that loved one that's sitting there on the side of the road waiting for you to get there. Somebody's already called and said, hey, there's somebody on the side of the road, they need help. Because we can easily make a call for somebody as opposed to getting involved with somebody. So that's the best way you can render help to yourself, to your loved ones, to anybody on the road who is stranded. It's a great tool. Interesting thing. I was going to a class, probably been about 20 years ago now, and I broke down. I was in a fairly new car, and I was about less than a mile from a state trooper, and we have Virginia motorist assistance, which most every state has that. I was at a very busy on-ramp, off-ramp, and I had a state trooper and motorist assistance, Virginia motorist assistance. Both of them passed me by and neither one of them stopped. Now, I was doing a test that day, and I didn't put my banner in the back window because I said, I'm going to see if anybody will stop. My dad was on his way. I knew it'd take him 20 minutes to get to me. And it just fascinated me that both a state trooper and a Virginia motorist assistance, both of them passed me by and neither one of them stopped just to say, hey, are you okay? Do you have help coming? Nothing. So that was a real big lesson for me that day. So again, that call police sign is excellent. It's in the back of my car. It's with me 24/7, and it has been for 40 years. It's a great tool. The other thing is, let's say you're walking into the grocery store this afternoon, or you're walking in to show a property and you're confronted. What would you do? If you were confronted, tell me some things you do. Just right now, just take yourself out, mute, tell me what you do. And by the way, I love to see faces. So if you wanted to show your face, that'd be okay with me. Otherwise, I'm looking at kind of a black screen. Sharon, Elena, Deborah. So what would you do?
Oh, go ahead.
Tell me. Somebody confront you, what would you do?
Hi. Well, I'm going to say, fortunately, I have damsel in defense products, so I always carry some type of pepper spray or something of that nature.
Okay, great. We'll talk about all of those. What else would you carry beside a pepper spray unit?
Like a whistle?
Whistle. What else? Anybody else?
A taser.
Taser. Okay. Anything else? We'll
Gun.
talk
You
about
can-
all of these. Yeah.
You would just definitely, the two things that you have right there, and that's your voice and your keys.
Okay. All right. All right. So let's talk about this. Number one, the greatest weapon that the criminal has against you, not a gun, not a knife, it's the element of surprise. That's why time and time and time and time again, when I hear the crime stories, people are like, oh my gosh, they came out of nowhere. I mean, they were just like on me before I even knew it. Well, number one, remember, they weren't paying attention to what was going on around them. But oftentimes if the criminal came up from behind and grabbed you, most of the time your stun gun, taser, your stuff is not readily available. Most of the time. Now, for those, how many of you in here have carried pepper spray before? Sharon, I get it. You've carried it. You're probably a distributor of Damsel. What else? Or just a customer? What else? Anybody carry pepper spray in here besides Sharon?
I carry pepper spray.
Huh?
No.
You have 3 people in the room who do.
3 people in the room that carry pepper spray. Okay, what else? Anybody else on here, or carry something else? I mean, it could be, a Kubotan, it could be a pen, it could be a bunch of different things.
A little knife on my keys, like look like a key.
Okay, so key, knife. Okay, got that. How many inches is that knife?
It's very small. It's about probably like 3 inches.
Yeah. Okay, got it. All right. So
Elena
and
in
we'll
the
talk.
chat says she has an
I'm sorry.
alarm. Yeah, Elena in the chat says she has an alarm and a nail file.
Okay, alarm and a nail file. Okay, let's talk alarm right now. And I'm writing this down so I can remember all of them. Okay, so number one, if you think that one of these, any of these things you've just told me is going to allow you to overpower a criminal, you are sadly mistaken.
Absolutely.
Hi, Sharon?
I said absolutely.
Yeah, thank you. So, but see, we've all seen way too much TV. If you think a 3-inch knife is going to hurt somebody, or a file, what that's going to do is going to escalate the violence of the situation and probably cost you your life. But you see people walk around all the time going, oh yeah, my keys. One of the classes that first classes I was in, it's been a long time ago. A girl said, I'd always been told by policemen, carry your keys between your fingers. And that's what you all are thinking right here, have your key as deterrent. So she was walking to her car one night and a guy jumped her. She's like, but I was prepared. I had my keys. I was ready to go. So she went to do that to strike him in the face. He grabbed her arm and he came down her face and down her neck with those keys. You cannot overpower a criminal. You don't know if he's armed, unarmed, stoned, or straight. I have black belts, both men and women, in my class who are even instructors. And they're like, Brenda, I would far rather do what you are telling me to do than me go hand to hand. Because again, that's a fight I don't need to get in. And for those that aren't trained and proficient, it's probably a fight you will never win. It'll probably cost you your life. So just be mindful to get rid of that thought that you're invincible or you're Wonder Woman, or you can take that file and use it to kick somebody's butt, because it ain't gonna happen. So please, those are the kind of things that can really get you killed. So in a situation, what you want to do like that, if somebody comes up from behind and grabs you, because again, it's that element of surprise, all you simply want to do is ask, what do you want? Because they're going to tell you exactly what they want. They're going to do it in very, very, very vivid details. And in a crime situation, what most oftentimes do they want from you, from I and our family members? Throw out some things, please.
Money.
Correct? What else?
Your purse.
Purse, phone, car keys, credit cards. Would you give it to them?
Yes.
Thank you, Deborah. The emphatic word is yes. And here's why. And I'll tell you, women are my biggest violators because they will tell me all day long, oh no, I'm gonna fight for that Gucci bag, or I'm gonna fight for that jewelry, or I'm gonna fight. It's not worth your life. You see, that guy in Anne Arundel County was doing open houses. He fought for that red new sports car and he lost his life. If you think a material possession of any kind is worth your life, then you go ahead. But I would say right now, think twice. Let whatever it is go. I had a woman, she was in property management, and she was going into work one morning and she stopped at an ATM machine. She was getting her money, whatever. She backed up and a guy was standing right behind her and he said, give me your money, because she'd just gotten her money out of an ATM. And so because this girl didn't know anything, she'd never been instructed, she never had education, she just turned around and instinctively she pushed the guy. Well, he proceeded to beat her. He broke her nose, he broke her collarbone. She wound up in the hospital, traumatized. All her coworkers were traumatized. Well, I was in the process of setting this program, but we hadn't done it yet. So needless to say, I was there a couple of weeks later and she came up to me, and this is very common. She came up to me after my presentation and she said, tears were streaming down her face. She said, Brenda, if I had only had this program and had your information prior to me getting caught in that situation, my outcome would have been totally different. She said, all I would have had to do is say, you know what? Here's my money. Here's my keys. There's my car, the pocketbook's on the inside, take it. He would have left her alone because all he wanted was her money. But she took a property crime and turned it into a violent crime based on how she responded and she reacted in that situation. So I will tell you, those are the facts. Be aware that that's what happens, and you need to be willing to let any material possession go. But let's say that they don't want your material possession, but they want you, Elena, or they want you, Sharon, or they want you, Melissa. Now we're talking about the crime of rape, sexual assault, whichever term you want to use. What would you do if you were placed in a rape situation? Because that happens a lot to real estate agents. I've heard testimonies from years from an agent in my class that at some point in time in their career have been placed and been a victim of sexual assault. I had a woman on Facebook the other day. She's twice she had been raped, and she's still in the real estate business, but she had been raped twice. I just thought, oh my God, dear Lord, that's just horrible. But anyway, what would you do if you were in a rape situation? What strategy would you use? And see, that's the challenge. Is when I ask people, what would you do in a rape situation? Most people are just like, no clue, other than fight, kick them in the balls. That's what I get most of the time from women. I'm going to kick it where it counts, you know, that kind of thing. Again, remember, fighting is always your last alternative. And what people don't realize is rape happens to anybody. It happens to men. It happens to women. It happens to senior adults. It happens to disabled, and it happens to children. Rape happens to everybody. It's just, do you know what the best strategy is? In the state of Virginia, where I am, the oldest woman to be raped is 93 years old, and the youngest is 2 months old. The 93-year-old was raped by her 15-year-old yard boy. So it has nothing to do with who you are, what you look like. It is a devastating and it's a violent crime. And for most survivors, it takes them years or they never get over it. That's the problem. And I have been a rape response crisis worker for years, just helping people who have been victimized on the hotline. So it's real. I was placed in a rape situation by a family member, attempted rape. I was able to talk my way out of it. I was 22 years old in my home when he came in. And, you know, fortunately, I was able to talk my way out of it and I got out of the situation. Not everybody's that fortunate, but that's just what happened in my situation, but it was still terrifying. So what are some things that you could do? Number one, try to talk your way out of it, saying, no, you won't do this to me, or I've got a sexually transmitted disease, or whatever it is. Have a strategy of what you feel like you can say that's right for you, that might deter them. Gain the psychological advantage. Fake a heart attack. Act like you're having a seizure. Act like you're fainting. Release all your bodily functions at one time. And most people say, no problem, because I could do that naturally. If you've never been placed in that situation, you have no idea what fear is. It is just, I mean, your life is being threatened, and it's a very scary situation. A lot of times people say, well, Brenda, what if fighting is my only alternative? I mean, that's the only thing I could do. Fighting is your last. And always remember that when you're in a situation like that, always stay in one place where you are. Secondary locations almost certain means death. So try to stay where you are, because more than likely you'll get help in some way or some shape, some form. But there's two fighting techniques. And I'm going to say and preface what I have taught for 40 years are only two fighting techniques. And there's a very specific criteria a fighting technique must meet for it to be something you should ever consider doing. Number one, it's got to be easy. Anybody of any skill, ability, or disability has to be able to do the fighting technique. Number two, let's say you start to do a fighting technique and you're like, oh my God, I can't do this. No, no, no. And you want to back off. You've just escalated the violence by initiating it. Backing off is not going to be an option. And thirdly, when you do a fighting technique, how quickly do you want to take them down? Instantaneously is your only options. Because if you just hurt them a little bit or stun them or whatever, let me tell you, they're going to fight back with a vengeance, and you're going to make it much worse on yourself. So the two fighting techniques that we've taught for 40 years that work, and I can say that they work because never once in all my years have I had somebody call me, write me, and say what you said did not work for me. Not once. So I can say with absolute certainty they work. The first one is called the thumbs to eyeball push. So here is the strategy that you employ in order to do the two fighting techniques. And it's called act as if you've given in. Did you hear me? Act as if you've given in. Don't go fighting. Don't go crazy. All right, let's get it over with. You want to take your hands, move up around their face, stroke their hair, act like you're getting into it. Again, you're acting as if. You're de-escalating the violence. You're not going in kicking and screaming because they're prepared for that. You're reversing it. And when you get your hands up here and you're stroking their hair and you act like you're getting into it and they're thinking, oh, great, this is going to be easy. You take your thumbs and you push off on the eyeballs as hard as you possibly can. And what you're going to do is temporarily blind them, giving you the opportunity to what? Exactly. Because they're going to be a whole lot more worried about themselves than they are about you. So that's the thumbs to eyeball push. That much pressure, you can temporarily take somebody down and easily get yourself out of the situation. And everybody can put that much pressure into your thumbs. The second technique is called the testicle jerk. Any questions? Okay, but there's a strategy, again, in how you use that successfully. So what happens is, again, during a rape scenario, and I know we've got one male on here. Thank you, Mike, for being here. And you can reply to this and tell me whether or not you think it would work. In a rape situation, again, at some point in time during the rape scenario, the rapist is going to have to expose himself. When you do, when you're acting as though you're getting into it, you grab a hold of one testicle. Remember, he's got a spare, grab the other, squeeze, twist, and jerk as hard as you possibly can. Mike, would you say yay or nay to that, buddy?
Yeah, I would say that's successful.
Thank you, Mike. I could tell you any man in my class, and I have many men in my class, they'll go, can you do the thumbs to eyeball first? All the women in my class unanimously go, oh, testicle jerk, I got it made. I can do that easy. But what we know to be true is, even though I like for you to laugh and have a little bit of fun during this, don't misunderstand the seriousness. 1 in 5 women will be placed in a rape situation at some point in time in their life. If you have any young women in your families that are on college campuses, 1 in 4 women on a college campus will be placed in a rape situation. It's real. So you have to make sure that they know these same strategies and know when to deploy them, and doing them in an act as if manner, like you're getting along and going along with it, will give you the opportunity. I had a woman, I live here in Norfolk, Virginia, where I have probably 11 bases within 30 minutes of my house. And I always do safety stand downs for these large reserve units. And I had a woman at Oceana, she'd seen my program, and she saw me like 3 months after the program, and she came up to me. She recognized me. She said, Brenda, let me tell you what happened to me. She said, like a week or 2 after I left your presentation, she said, I was placed in a gang rape situation. But she got this really big smile on her face. And she said, you know, the testicle jerk that you teach? She said, I used it. And it totally incapacitated the guy. Somebody was alerted, they got help, and that guy was arrested that day. You see, that's what's important for me, for each one of you to have the resources, the knowledge, and the tools to be able to save your own life. Because when you're in a place with somebody, a prospect, whoever that's coming on to you or confronting you, your app, your phone, none of that stuff's going to help you. It's you and them. And if you don't have the skills and the knowledge right then and there to know what to do, then you're out of luck, and you're going to do something that probably won't work the best for you. So this is very, very real. This is information that saves lives every day. That's why I've done this for 40 years, and I will never stop, because I'm on a mission to help save people's lives. And in closing, we're going to talk about all those different weapon choices that you all have given me. One of the first things that I'm going to tell you is, again, with martial arts, those people in black belts take that week in and week out, month in and month out for years to get proficient to use those skills. And the concern I have with with the self-defense course, there's probably, how many of you in here have taken a self-defense course? Anybody taken self-defense?
We have a couple people in the room. Yeah.
I took one about probably 5 or 6 years ago. We have a land attorney called Dirt Attorney, and he's a martial arts person, and he teaches a self-defense class for women. The problem with that, if you go and take a self-defense class once a year, once every couple of years, do you really think for one moment that you would now be proficient enough to use that skill, to use it in any given situation? I can tell you right now, I don't even remember what he told me. And so my belief is self-defense, if you want to enhance your confidence, okay. But if you want to take self-defense or carry a gun, you've got to take those lessons week in and week out, month in and month out, year in and year out, because you have to be totally proficient in the use of that skill set to do it. And then again, you're going hand to hand, you're fighting. It's not the right strategy. It's going to probably get you killed. With firearms, people always, ask me, what about firearms? What do you think about firearms? After Soren died around here. There was a couple of agents that were interviewed and they're like, oh, it's now time for me to get my gun. Here's the problem. Do any of you all carry, by the way? Anybody in here carry? I don't hear any yeses. Okay. Here's the problem with a gun. If you carry this, you've got to be willing to pull that trigger and aim it and kill another person. And what I know to be true about real estate agents, you all are caregivers. You all are in this business to serve. You are in this business to help. You are not the kind of people, you don't have the MO to say, oh yeah, man, I could shoot anybody. That's not your MO. So even though people carry guns, if you don't have the emotional commitment that it takes without hesitation to pull this trigger and use it, it's going to more than likely be turned and used on you. And that's why guns for sport, fabulous, wonderful. But if you're thinking about it for your own safety, I would seriously consider another alternative, because statistically, most people are killed with their own firearms. And that includes police have been killed with their own firearms because they hesitated. So that is something that most people never give 1 minute's thought to. For those of you that have said carry an alarm, as citizens, we are desensitized to noise. How many times have you walked to a parking lot, car alarms going off, you keep right on walking? As a society, we've been very desensitized. So those POW alarms and those birdies and all those things that they have on there, all they got to do is crash that, throw it to the ground and step on it, is dead. But still, people don't come running with noise because we got noise everywhere. We're in total noise pollution. So that is also not something. Plus, in your house, if you're in a house with a guy and you've got a birdie, do you think it's really going to help you? No. I had to take my husband to the hospital. Oh, it's been a couple of months ago. And I got home late. It was like 1 o'clock. And I said, well, I'm going to watch a little TV before I go to bed because I just got to wind down. But he has a very sensitive security, thing on his keys, and I didn't know it, but I hit it and I couldn't hear it. And that thing must have gone off for 30 minutes. And not one of my neighbors came over to check on me. And I said, well, there you go. That's proof. Car alarm at 2 o'clock in the morning is going off and nobody came over to check on me. And they knew it, they could see it was Patrick's car because his lights were flashing. So interesting. The problem is with a weapon, it's got to be where you need it when you need it. You can't say, oh, wait just a second, it's in my pocketbook, or wait just a second, it's in my briefcase, or wait just a second, it's in my dresser drawer at home. If your weapon is not where you need it when you need it, it's not going to do you any good. Most people, as was said here today, carry pepper spray. Here's the problem. Pepper spray doesn't always work. It's not always effective. Ask any police officer in this entire country. Police officers carry pepper spray. I've got 4 family members, immediate family members that serve on the Norfolk Police Department. Pepper spray is their first line of defense. My brother-in-law was down at Waterside. He was arresting a guy one evening and the guy resisted arrest. So he got out his pepper spray and he hosed the guy down and it didn't faze the guy at all. He started fighting even harder and Mike got hurt in that fight, even though he had backup here and backup was on its way. So many do think pepper spray is the end all to be all. And it's just not. I'm a chemical weapons expert. Trust me, it is not the best thing. It's great for dogs, excellent for dogs, but it doesn't always work instantaneously on human beings. My cousin did a test and he got shot with pepper spray because he was Henrico in Richmond, police officer. And he said, well, it's kind of burning and, my nose, a little tingling, but it didn't take him down. You have to take somebody down instantaneously. Otherwise, you're going to escalate the violence of the situation. That's why for 40 years ago, I made and created my own chemical defense spray. It's called Enforcer Plus. And the reason I did that, because it needed to be the best that was available in the marketplace, and it has been for 40 years. Couple of things to be aware of. Number one, it has to have a clip on it. This stays either on my body, on my waist, or in my hand at all times. That's the only two places my weapon stays. The other thing is, it has a passive safety. So if I accidentally mash down on it, it's not going to accidentally fire because of that little black raised edge. However, if I need to use it, all I got to do is push and point. And it's going to spray a strong stream 6 to 8 feet with a blast pattern at the end, and it's going to take them down instantaneously. The other thing is you need a key release. You see how I can take it apart, key release? If you have to have your car serviced or valet parked, you only give them your car key, not your weapon and not your house key. Because if you give them the whole thing and they can make a copy of your key and your registration's in your car, they will probably come and visit you. So you have to make sure that you have a key release to service or valet park your car. The other thing is, when do they expire? Does anybody know when a chemical defense spray expires? Anybody know? 1 year.
Usually within a year or two. 1 year.
1 year.
Yeah.
And the reason being is the propellant that causes it to disperse will go flat. Just like a Pepsi goes flat in a bottle. And I have women all the time to go, well, Brenda, I can shake it. I can hear it in there. Well, here's the thing. You can shake it and you can hear it, but you don't know how long that's been sitting on that shelf in that retail store or where Bob's Gun Shop or wherever it's been sitting. You don't know. So you have to make sure that you know 1 year and that propellant will die. And even though you have it and you go to use it and it doesn't work, then all you've done is just escalate the violence of the situation. So it has to be replaced every single year, the cartridge inside. The other thing is, what specifically does the chemical makeup need to be? 4 specific ingredients. And this is only if you want the most comprehensive, non-lethal, non-liable form of protection. Again, pepper spray is everywhere out there. You can get it at the gas station. You can get it at Walmart. You can get it from damsels in distress. You can get them from everywhere. This is called Enforcer Plus. It has CS tear gas. CS tear gas is the strongest military strength chemical weapon you can have in your unit. The other thing is oleoresin capsicum, which is ground up cayenne peppers, pepper spray, which is great for dogs. It also has an ID, an ultraviolet dye for later identification. Why do you think that would be important to have that in your unit?
If it gets on the criminal's clothes, it can be connected to you.
They will be marked and with a UV dye so they won't know it's on their skin. But that will be the only evidence that you can literally take and use in a court of law to bring a conviction. But again, the criminals will not know that it's on them. The other thing is a solvent base. What that means is when you spray an assailant, it will immediately strip the oils off the skin, expose the nerve endings, and drop them instantaneously. Remember, I said, if your weapon isn't able to drop them instantaneously, what do you think is going to happen? They're going to fight back and they're going to use extra force. I always tell people the best way to test the chemical defense spray is get a styrofoam cup. And here's why. I'm just going to spray a little bit in a styrofoam cup. And what should happen is the very second it hits the face, it'll strip the oils, expose the nerve endings, and drop them instantaneously. Now, most people say, is that going to kind of like eat their face off? What are you thinking?
So what if it does?
There you go. So what if it does? Here's the thing. You have liability. And if you hurt or harm anybody in this country today, we live in a very litigious society. People will sue you for anything. I'm sure you would agree. I was shot with this on purpose. It's probably been about 25 years ago now, because people always say, well, what does it feel like? Now, if you know anybody who's been in the military who has served, they know what it feels like, because they've been in CS tear gas chambers and they've been shot with this, because it's a riot control agent you most oftentimes see on TV when they're dispersing crowds. That is typically CS tear gas. What happened to me when I got shot with this is my eyes involuntarily slammed shut. You hyperventilate, feel like you're suffocating, can't get your breath. My face literally felt like it was on fire. I mean, I couldn't cry, I couldn't cuss. It was just, it took my breath. I couldn't do anything. I was incapacitated for about 30 minutes. And the only antidote is water. No salves, no creams, no emergency rooms. Just rinse the eyes out with water, the skin off with water, stand in front of a fan and air your pores out. That's the only antidote. But let me tell you something. I was incapacitated for 20 to 30 minutes, and the only thing that I cared about was me. I didn't care about anybody else. It was just, how do I stop this fire? So that's why I do my best as a chemical weapons expert, to be able to truly educate people. You can have something or anything. You can have all the things you just talked about, but more than likely that is not going to save your life. I want to make sure that you've got the knowledge and the education and the tools that will 100% help save your life when you're in a crime situation. So we've talked about home, car, street, rape, weapons, different scenarios as a real estate agent you could find yourself in. What questions do you have of me that I can answer for you now?
Brenda, this is Deborah again.
Yes, ma'am.
First, I'd like to know where I can get some of that Enforcer Plus spray.
Yes, ma'am.
For the actual ingredients to make it, if that's the only way. Is it legal for real estate agents to carry? And also, can you speak to the reliability of carrying a taser, and is that legal for real estate agents?
Sure. Great questions, Deborah. Thank you for that. Hold on just a second. Okay, so I'm going to put my link in there. I do not sell Enforcer Plus anywhere but in my programs, because I believe it's the education and these specific products that I have researched and I know work. I don't retail, I don't catalog, nothing. It's only available to people who sit in my programs or who know me and want this. This is my formulation. You're not going to find it at Kmart, Walmart, no, none of those places. So that's just something I offer to people that are in my program. So there is a link on there, and I put together a special package, excuse me, for anybody who attends my virtual classes. And what I recommend, and this is the package, I'll just share it with you so you at least know what it is. It's a value, it's really a value of about $297, but I have it here for you guys for $97, and here's why. There is a 2-hour masterclass. I went into a recording studio and recorded a lot of information that I couldn't possibly cover on this class. It's all new stuff. And a lot of it is specifically for real estate agents. I mean, I went through a lot of very, very detailed things as a real estate agent you should do. So it's something that you and your family members that aren't here, but you want them to hear this information, it's on that class. So that pretty much comes for free with this package. That's a 2-hour, you'll automatically get that. There are 2 personals, one for you and one for hopefully your daughter, your mother, your sister, your girlfriend, but for most women, it's for them and their daughters or them and their moms. So there's 2 in there because that's what I get asked for the most. There is 1 home model of Enforcer Plus. I recommend that you keep this in your home. Minimum places are by the front door and by your nightstand. So when I go to the front door and I have somebody in my house, you know, doing repairs, or if I was sitting at an open house, this would be sitting on my desk. or that kitchen counter, so I had access to it or just have it in my hand, because it's going to spray like 6 to 8 feet. It's got a lot of power. You'll never use it up, and it's good for 2 years. So the personal is good for 1 year, and then what you will do is get a postcard from me in 1 year saying it's time to change your refill out. So all you do is pull off the bottom, take that little canister, throw it away, put your new canister in for $13. You're good to go. This is always good. If you have a ton of keys, as many real estate agents do, keep them on a separate keychain. Only keep your house key and your car key on this, because it's very lightweight. I mean, it's light as a feather. So 2 personals, 1 home model, 1 of the call police sign banners that I mentioned. There are 3 security system stickers, actually, sorry, 6. So you could put it on your front door, your back door, any windows on the first floor of your house. If you have a camper or boat, put it on there as well. It's really great for those places. And then a thing that I did mention, but this is what I have in my home. So I have the door window stickers, and I have what's called a door wedge alarm. This is the only thing I have. I don't have a full-blown system. So this goes behind my front door and my back door. So if the door is opened, it automatically presses on this. It sounds an alarm. It scares the criminal away, and the door will not open with this behind it. So it's sensitive, so you can do high, low. You can change the height of it for the level of your door. So it's really great. All you do is change your battery every year. It was originally designed for people who travel. It's great for girls that are in dorms. It's superb for that. Or in your own home, and you just take off the bottom and replace your 9-volt battery. That's it. So this goes anywhere with you, and it's just great. But again, this is what I have on my front door and my back door in my home. So that's what comes in this personal pack that you're seeing right there. Let me see if I can do a little something here. Did you give me permission to share, Melissa? Share screen? Huh?
Yes, let me just make sure, but you should be a co-host. Yeah, you're a co-host. You should be able to.
So I'd like to, is there any way that you can share it?
If you want to send me something, I can do it.
Yeah, go ahead and share it on your end. That way they can actually see it.
What am I sharing?
Can you guys see it now?
What am I sharing? Your link?
Oh yeah, no, just share the screen. So can you just share it with me? Because I can't seem to pull it up. Hold on. I can't seem to pull it up on the bottom here.
I don't know.
You know, usually when you're sharing the screen, you can get access to it.
This?
Hold on, there we go. Hold on, I can share it right there. Okay, got it. Yes, now. Okay, share. All right, so now you guys can see it. Can you see it? Everybody see it?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
So this is what it looks like. I just verbally told you. I apologize. I should have pulled this up sooner. So the $97 package is the 2 personals, the 1 home model, 6 stickers, 1 door wedge alarm, and the 2-hour training and the call police sign banner. So that's what is available for the $97 package. You can also get some individual units, like I have one that's a personal and a call police sign. And then I have additional personals because a lot of people like to get them for like a mom or daughter or sister or whatever. So this is specifically what is in there, gives you a little bit of description about each one of them. Call police sign, just put it in your glove compartment. It's always there, your door and window stickers. So I like to call it a beginner pack because most people have never done this. They don't know where to get these kinds of, so I've just put everything together that makes it super easy. You can go there, order it, it'll ship out to you tomorrow, and it's as easy as that. So any questions about anything at all that I've talked about, shared, didn't share, you still have a question about, please, now's the time. I want to be able to answer those questions for you.
Okay, Brenda, that's very helpful. Just your take on the use of tasers.
Yes, ma'am. The problem with tasers, how close do you have to be with either stun guns or tasers? Tasers, you got to be a really good aim. And you don't, let's pretend this is a taser. Most people don't walk around with the taser in their hand, right? So I find that it's typically not readily available for people because they don't just want to carry a taser in their hand. That's why, again, the strategy here is my weapon is always where I need it when I need it, because it's always in my hand, or it's always clipped onto my body. It's clipped onto my jeans, my shorts, whatever. And this is an incredible visual deterrent. When a criminal sees this on my body or in my hand, they automatically know I'm probably not the best target for them. So they're going to pass me by. I've been single most of my life. I was single 17 years. I never once have been threatened, never once. And I go anywhere, everywhere, dancing. I mean, the whole 9 yards. I live my life, never once, but I know this is an incredible visual deterrent. So the taser is not readily available.
BMW.
And you have to be really a good target to use those tasers. So again, unless it's easy, accessible, you can use it right then and there on the spot. It's not what I recommend. Somebody asked me about legalities. The only place you are restricted from carrying chemical defense spray is going to be in a courtroom where there's a judge. So hence, when I had rental property, I just go in with my car key. I leave that in the car.
Or whatever.
One of you guys need to mute yourself because you're chatting.
you know.
Hello, mute yourself, mute. So again, have it disconnected. When I travel, it can always go and check luggage. I can't physically carry it on board the plane. Those are the only restrictions and legalities. There is some laws in Minnesota. It can't be shipped or aired to Hawaii or Alaska, but that's just shipping requirements. I mean, you can ship ground here in the US most anywhere, but those are the only, I think, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Hawaii, Alaska are the only places you really have any kind of restrictions. Anywhere else in the country, perfectly legal. Maryland, Delaware, Virginia, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, all the Carolinas, everywhere, it's perfectly legal.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a great question. Thank you for reminding me to share that. Any other questions that you guys have?
Hi, Brenda, this is Sharon.
Yes, ma'am, Sharon.
And it works in all types of weather, inclement,
Yes.
you know, when.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
It works anytime and every time. And again, as long as you know your expiration date, and then again, what I do for my customers is in 1 year, you'll get your notification, it's time to replace your refill. And then in 2 years, you'll get your notice that you need to replace your home model. And I've just really started doing that. So kind of glad that I finally started doing that after all these years. So you always, because you can only get it from me, you can't get it from anywhere else. So that's why I make sure that you get that notice in 1 year or 2 years. But yes, you guys have asked some great questions. And Sharon, you know, I appreciate Damsels in Distress. They've been around for many, many, many years. It's just, I know pepper spray is not the best chemical weapon. And again, for most people, they're not educated. They don't know any better. So that's why I have made this specifically with all 4 ingredients, because it is the absolute best. You guys have about an hour. When you click on the link, you'll have 1 hour to purchase at this rate. Otherwise, anytime after that, it's $197 for this package, along with the 2-hour training class with more information. Any other questions you guys got? Let me ask you, did you enjoy and find value in the information I shared?
Absolutely. And it's Deborah again with one quick question. What is the risk of back spray when using
Good
that?
question. Good question. Good question. Deborah, you asked some great questions. Thank you.
Thanks.
So this sprays in a strong stream, 6 to 8 feet, with a blast pattern at the end. And you see most sprays, pepper sprays that are out there, I couldn't spray it in here because it sprays in a mist or a fog. And what that's going to do is you're going to get blowback, or it's going to dissipate, and it doesn't have the ability to get to the attacker. So this I've designed so it's a strong stream with a distance, so the person doesn't have to be close for you to use it, and it'll take them down instantaneously.
Great, thanks.
That's a good question, Deborah. And Sharon, thank you for your questions as well. Anybody else? Melissa, I don't know if Mike is still on here. Who else was on there? Somebody else. But any other questions that you guys have? I'm here to answer away. If you guys, let me give you my email address. Let me see, I maybe can put it in the chat here if I can get to the chat. Let's see, hold on. Oh, there we go, chat. I'm gonna put my phone number. You can find me on Facebook at smartwiseprotection.com. I post something there every week. A lot of times it's specifically about real estate agents or tips, or I just do videos on what to do in different situations. So all that information is readily available. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. Again, I do videos every week. Updating people on education, safety information. Right now, somebody had asked about carjackings. I just did a news piece last week with a reporter, and she was asking me about carjackings because they have gone up significantly right now. Why? Because these chips, new cars are out of stock, and the cost for a used car has gone up exponentially. So these jackers are jacking cars, and they're also jacking Uber drivers. So what I tell people to do, number one, if you're in a carjacking, a real estate agent was in a carjacking here in Virginia Beach. It was 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Guy just committed a crime, saw her in a parking lot and wanted her car. Well, she fought with him to get the files, her real estate files, out of the backseat of the car. And I'm like, she was in my class like months later. And she's like, I know that was stupid. I should have never done that. He was wielding a knife and he sliced her hand up pretty good. But she said, I just wasn't thinking. I just thought I needed to get he didn't want those files. All he wanted was a car to get away. But she was so worried about her files. It was like, that was so crazy. So jackings are obviously a crime of opportunity. They're going to hit when they know they can get in your car. A gas station is a prime place. If you were ever forced in a carjacking situation to drive your car, all you need to do is when you're at a stoplight or at an intersection, bump the car in front of you, run into a tree, whatever you want to do. I mean, I'm not talking life-threatening accident. I'm just talking about something that will get you attention, and that criminal will not stand by and wait for the police to come. He'll be gone. So it's a really good strategy if indeed you are in the car and you're forced to drive. Just wreck your car, preferably at an intersection where there's people all around you where you can get help very quickly. Never ever go with them. If they want your car, let them have your car. Never go with them. There was a woman that was jacked just like last week. She worked for some New York person, the ex-mayor, whatever. Anyway, she was in Colorado at his mansion, and some guy came there and he abducted her. He wanted his daughters. He wanted this guy's daughters, and they weren't there. So he took this girl in her car and drove her to 4 states. I think he finally wound up in, I don't know, Montana or something. And she drove, and she had a GPS so her family could track her, and that's how they found her. But, you know, I would have just wrecked my car. If I was driving when I got to an intersection, I would have just wrecked the car. Again, he wouldn't have stood around to see what was going on when people were coming over to help. So that's one thing you can really easily do in a carjacking situation. Or again, just let them have your car. Don't fight for it. So again, you can find me on Instagram, Brenda Wise. You can find me on Facebook at Brenda Wise. You can find me on TikTok, Brenda Wise. And then please, please, please join my Smart Wise Protection community on Facebook, because I'm constantly putting things there. You will also get a link from me so you can get all of these safety tip sheets that I mentioned today, the real estate, the seller tip sheets, and the intake form that you can fill out and leave with the office every time you meet with a prospect at the office. So I have a lot of stuff like that. And then again, I just constantly am educating agents on what to do. So I hope this has been helpful. I really appreciate those of you that did stay today and got on this webinar today. And I really appreciate helping save your life. Oh, I also want to put my my email address is brenda@smartwiseprotection.com. So you can access me. You can access me any of those places.
This has been so fantastic. We really appreciate you taking the time to talk with everybody today. I know people had fantastic questions. I'm sure they're going to check out your stuff. I also sent your link to everybody that was in the room since they weren't on Zoom, so they have your information there as well. So thank you so much, Brenda. This was fantastic.
Absolutely. And if you guys want that beginner pack, please, when you click on it, you got 59 minutes. So you got an hour to purchase it. Otherwise, it'll go up to $197. So again, and if you want to talk to me individually about a group that you'd like for me to work with or share this information with, just call me, text me, and we'll work together on doing that as well. So Melissa, thank you for all your help. Appreciate it.
Yeah. All right. Well, I hope everybody has a wonderful evening.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, Deborah. Thanks, Sharon. Thanks, Melissa. That's whose faces I see up here right now.